Hi everyone, welcome to the session. As Preeti mentioned, in this session we will explore how analysts can build and manage a data lakehouse with Spark SQL and Apache Iceberg. Let me begin with a quick introduction. My name is Sachin and I'm the founder CEO of QBook. I have with me my colleague Vikrant, who heads engineering at QBook. QBook is an augmented analytics platform. It enables consumerization and automation of analytics so that you can save time for both consumers and producers of analytics. Here's how we have planned this session. I'll spend the first few minutes on why we are building QLake and what we learned in building for analysts as compared to building for engineers. I'll then hand over to my colleague Vikrant, who will walk you through QLake in detail. So first of all, why QLake? We believe that if data engineering is less code and more SQL, then analysts generally have SQL skills can join engineers in managing data. This would significantly increase the pool of people within an organization who can manage data. This takes me to my next question. Why analysts? Why do we want analysts to do data engineering? So the reason is simple. What we believe is, as compared to engineers, analysts are closer to business teams. This means they have a better understanding of what the business users need or want. And if these analysts can manage data themselves, they won't be dependent on the engineering team for every small data request. Why Lakehouse? Because it's open and cost effective, and we believe in open architectures. That's why we have open source QLake as well. And this is what QLake is all about. QLake enables SQL analysts to build and manage a data lakehouse. Finally, few things that we learned building for analysts. Number one, analysts typically ingest data that is at rest. Data in motion, like clickstream data, is better handled by engineers. Second, what we saw was analysts want flexible but automated data ingestion. As business requirements change, they want to build pipelines to move desired data at desired frequency whenever required. So instead of a big bang approach, what they prefer is to build pipelines iteratively, as and when the need arises, typically whenever the business requirements arose. Third and final thing, what we saw was even though we are big believers in SQL, however, when it comes to data transformation, there are some use cases which can't be done in SQL, while there are some other use cases which are simpler when done in code. What we saw was what we needed was a mix of code and SQL, with SQL being the primary language. This is one of the reasons we chose Zeppelin. Zeppelin allows us to toggle between code and SQL paragraphs within a notebook. I'll now hand over to my colleague Vikrant, who will walk you through QLake.
Thank you, Sachin. Hi, everyone. So before going into what QLake is and how it works, let me first tell you what are the challenges that we are facing and why we started building QLake. So QBook being an analytics company, most of our use cases were like fetch data from multiple data sources, do some transforms or joins on them, and then write it to a destination so that it can be read by the BI tools. So we started with so sorry for this. So where was I? So we started with what's already there in the open source community. We chose Airflow as our scheduler, and we created a Spark cluster to load and transform data. So it was working well for a while, but then there are changing requirements. Suppose that a new data source is added, then we have to change the pipelines. Suppose that new kind of report is required, then we have to change the pipelines. So iterations were very slow in Airflow. So we tried a little hack. What we did was we installed a Jupyter notebook on our Kubernetes cluster and connected it to the Airflow. So now when you change code in Jupyter notebook, it automatically updates the pipeline in Airflow. And so with this solution, the iterations got a little bit faster, and we exposed this Jupyter notebook interface to the analyst itself because the requirements were coming from the analysts. So, and now the problem was the analyst was not able to debug the pipelines using the Airflow UI because these heavy data engineering tools are a little too much for a SQL analyst. So that's when we started building QLake. Now let me show the architecture of QLake. So as you can see in the diagram, why we chose Zeppelin. Uh, Zeppelin gives us the notebook interface, which was a must for rapid prototyping and development of the pipelines. And also, if Zeppelin is deployed on Kubernetes, then it can create the resources required by itself. Suppose that you create a Spark notebook, then it can create a Spark interpreter and Spark cluster. And when that notebook is idle for some time, it has a life cycle management as well, so it can kill the resources cost. The other service is QLake, which has our web app and the Celery executor and scheduler required to run the jobs, and there's a Redis server, which has the Celery task queue. So you can see that there are two branches from QLake. The first one is ad hoc queues, and the second is scheduled jobs. So when you create a notebook in QLake, there can be two cases. Either you are currently working on it, that is ad hoc queues. You will execute the code in the Zeppelin notebook, and it will be handled by the always running Zeppelin server. And when you execute the code, the Spark interpreter and Spark cluster is created automatically, and when it's idle, it gets deleted. And the other case is scheduled jobs. So if you have a scheduled notebook, what QLake will do is it will create a new Zeppelin job server, and it will run the notebook on that newly created server. And as soon as the job is finished, all these resources are deleted. And also, if you're running multiple notebooks in parallel, QLake will create multiple Zeppelin job servers. And so, QLake notebook can be created in QLake, and there are two cases. You are executing the notebook directly, and the requests are handled by the Zeppelin server. Zeppelin server can create a Spark interpreter and a Spark cluster, and if the notebook is idle for some time, Zeppelin can delete those resources, saving you infrastructure cost. And the other case is scheduled jobs. If the notebook is scheduled, QLake will create a new job server. It will create a new Spark cluster and interpreter. And if you have scheduled multiple notebook jobs in parallel, QLake will create multiple Zeppelin job servers, and this is what this is how QLake gets its horizontal scalability. Now let me show you an example notebook. So as you can see, this notebook has two paragraphs. And we have directly started writing SQLs. There is no need to provide Spark context. And these are Spark queries, Spark SQL queries. The Spark context is already set in the interpreter. So that's how the default Spark interpreter settings are set. And in the right side, you can see the Spark jobs link. So while you're running the query, if you want to debug it, you can click on that link and you go to the Spark UI to debug your job. And also there's a little thing, if you notice, the first paragraph took 1 minute and 1 second, and the second took 13 seconds. So when we executed the first paragraph, it was creating resources. So these two queries are very comparable. They take almost the same time. But what happened was the first paragraph, when we executed the first paragraph, Zeppelin was creating a Spark interpreter and a Spark cluster. That's why it took a little longer. And for the second paragraph, the Spark cluster was already up. So if it's idle for some time, then Zeppelin will automatically delete the resources. Now let me show you how we show all the notebooks in QLake. So it's just a table-like structure. In the last two columns, you can see the last run statuses. In the bar, you can see some steps. The number of steps in these bars are equal to the number of paragraphs in your notebooks. So in the example here, all of the notebooks have 6 paragraphs. And when you hover over any step, you get start time, end time, the status, and if you're given a title to it. So this is how run logs are visible in QLake. You can click on the logs to get detailed logs. Now let me tell you what a workflow is in QLake. Workflow is a group of notebooks with a trigger condition. This trigger condition can be a schedule or any other workflow. If you choose other workflow, you can chain multiple workflows together, and this is how you create a DAG in QLake. So DAG is a concept of Airflow. So that's how we got inspired for creating workflow. Now let me show you an example workflow that will make it a little more clear how workflows work. So this is a ELT workflow. The first workflow, incremental upsert, has 3 notebooks, notebook A, B, and C. They read data from any relational database. If all of these notebooks are successful, then we run a transform workflow with notebooks M and N. They do the transformation, and if these are successful, then there's a destination workflow with notebooks X, Y, and Z. So this is how we chain workflows in QLake. This is a very simple example. You can create more complex workflows as well in QLake. Configuring cluster size. This is a very cool feature about Zeppelin, which I like when installed on Kubernetes. So there are default interpreter settings, as I've told you earlier, but you can also have a configuration for every notebook. In Zeppelin, you can give your Spark configuration in the first paragraph. And so if you're not sure about how much resources your job is going to take, you can easily experiment with it. It will just take few minutes and a new cluster can be created. QLake can also read the Metastore tables. All you need to do is provide your Metastore DB environment variables, and it will show you this Metastore browser in a nice UI. So while you're working on a notebook, you can click on this database icon, and this will come up as a drawer, and you can see all the tables and views in your Hive Metastore. And this shows the last updated time, the size of the table, and the columns info. Sorry, so pre-built Hive Metastore is required. We just ask for your DB credentials, and that's how we show it to you in the Metastore drawer UI. But we are working towards it, and maybe next month we'll have the auto deployment of Metastore. So when you install QLake, your Metastore will be deployed automatically. The third one is changing Zeppelin configuration is difficult. So Zeppelin configuration requires a little bit of DevOps expertise and also information about Zeppelin. So currently, if you want to change Zeppelin configuration, what you'll have to do is you'll have to exec inside a pod, change the configurations, and then restart the server. So what we are planning is we'll have a nice UI in QLake itself, where you can handle all your Zeppelin configurations, and it will do the restarts for Zeppelin itself. The fourth one is limit on parallel jobs. Since we have coupled our Celery executor inside our QLake web app, so the number of parallel jobs that can run depends on the resources you give to the QLake pod. So we are planning to decouple Celery from QLake web app so that it's highly available and scalable. The next limitation is there is no authorization. There is no auth implemented yet in QLake. Currently, what you can do is you can install it in a Kubernetes cluster. You can do port forward to access it, but you cannot do a ingress or something like that because it will expose everything. Next is what are the things that we are working on right now? The first is workspaces. We plan to introduce workspaces. So you can have multiple workspaces for your dev, test, or production environments. And maybe for different teams can use different workspaces. The second is in the data lineage that we are planning is the notebooks will become the edges and your tables will become the nodes. and the data lineage should be able to show you the whole data flow that is happening in the organization. The third one is Spark History Server. Jobs which has already ran, you cannot see the Spark UI for those. So we are planning to introduce Spark History Server where all the logs will be stored in S3, GCS or EasyFS, and you can debug your old jobs as well. And the fourth is developer APIs. Developer APIs are must for integration with other tools. So we plan to expose the developer APIs ASAP. So this is it from QLake.
I think he got bumped off again. Some serious problem.
So Sachin, would you like to open it up for QA now, or?
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. So everyone in the session, let's go ahead and open it up for QA. If you have a question, use the button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to share your audio and video, and you'll be automatically put in a queue. And if for some reason you're having trouble sharing your audio, you can just ask your question in the chat. Okay, so I have one question from Edwin. So I'll just yes, Edwin, you can ask your question. Edwin, can you connect your audio or video and ask your question? Or you can type it in the chat box. I guess, Sachin, until Edwin is able to connect his audio, maybe you can sort of conclude the session, and if we get to Edwin, then he can ask his question as well. Does that sound good? Do you have any concluding statements?
No, Preeti. I think we are good.
Sure, no worries. And there's instructions in the chat box. So if you, the attendees of this session, if you have any questions after the session, you can always, connect to the Slack channel. Sachin and Vikrant have their own Slack channel in the subsurface Slack. And before you leave, we'd appreciate if you could also please fill out the super short Slido session survey on the right-hand side before you leave the session. And the next sessions are coming up in just 5 minutes. And Expo Hall is also open. So we strongly encourage you to check out the booths to get demos on the latest tech and win some awesome giveaways. And thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, Sachin and Vikrant.
Thank you, Preeti.